You asked me before the show last night, are you okay with the Lions taking an offensive lineman? Make your case. Where, whether 6 or 18, and who, and I'll give you my answer.
I'm going to be honest with you. The only way I'd be okay with an offensive lineman being taken, and I don't even know if I'm okay with this, but I would be able to swallow this pill if Osiris Torrance was the pick at 18, if they took Osiris Torrance. Besides that, Peter Skoronski won't be there at 18. So you'd have to tell me, well, Jeff, are you okay with taking him at 6 or trading back to 11, let's say, for example, and taking Peter Skoronski? No, I would not. I think the first pick absolutely has to be a defensive player. Now, that 18, you can make an argument, maybe Torrance. I've made an argument for Bijan. You can make I've seen Quentin Johnston. I've seen all types of players. At 6, no way, no how. So Osiris Torrance just met with the Lions yesterday. I wouldn't be angry if he was a pick at 18, but no offensive lineman. To me, I'd much rather go defense, or if you want to go defensive player and maybe a running back, Bijan being the running back. But besides that, no, I'm out of an offensive lineman. I can't. I don't understand, especially
so
your
it's
offensive
player specific to you.
Because essentially, if you're drafting Peter Skoronski, you're drafting him
at
to
6
to play guard,
and then move him to tackle in the future if you move off Decker.
No, I'm okay. I'm
we've
good.
seen recently offensive linemen, especially some of the better offensive linemen in the NFL, their careers have been extending lately.
Yeah.
You got Lane Johnson, you've got Trent Williams out in San Francisco. There's some good offensive linemen up there in age. Who's to say Taylor Decker isn't around? I wouldn't agree with a first-round pick.
Yeah,
with an offensive lineman. Again,
I'm out
Detroit,
on that.
What's your situation? You're the favorite to win the division. You have the fourth highest odds, to win the NFC. What do you need? You want to shore up your run defense. Okay. If that means Jalen Carter, so be it. And at 18, you find a corner because you spent 2 one-year deals on Emmanuel Mosley and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And I like to believe, even with all the money you have next offseason, that C.J. Gardner-Johnson is not going to take a 1-year, $19, $20 million contract to, quote, do it again. Could have done that with Philly. So C.J. Gardner-Johnson's going to get the bag, whether it's from Detroit or somebody else, when he balls out this year.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would rather even have, you mentioned corner, I'd rather have Brian Branch over an offensive lineman at 18.
See, Brian Branch, to me, you could sell me on the idea if you're just committed to not re-signing C.J. Gardner-Johnson, because that's essentially the role he'll play. He's going to be a guy in the slot.
Right.
He's going to be all over the box. He's going to offer a lot to your defense.
Yeah, if you can't afford CJ, then he's a
and I
viable
think
option.
Brian Branch, to me, is only an option if the corners you want aren't
are
available.
gone. Yeah, if Joey Porter's there, but still,
I
the
would
point
prefer
I'm making,
Brian Branch over an offensive lineman any day.
Yeah, I was
going
gonna say the point I'm making is there's multitude of players I would probably prefer, not tight end, but a multitude of players I'd prefer over an offensive lineman.
Okay, let's say your scenario, Brian, all the corners off the board.
Yep.
Brian Branch is available. 18.
What about Bijan?
And so is Bijan.
Oh, gosh.
What does Jeff Eifredi do?
I think I'm going to be honest. As much as I have a man crush on Bijan, I can't let my man crush get in the way of my philosophy, which is if Brian Branch is there over Bijan, talk about the player.
Don't do it.
I think Brian Branch would be the pick, just because again, what he would mean to this defense. Bijan is
Could
great
I make
as
the
he
argument?
is.
I'm gonna play Jeff's role today. Actually, guys, watch this. Couldn't I make the argument that if the Lions were to go Jalen Carter, Bijan Robinson?
Oh, I love it.
Wait. You're gonna love what I say after this even more. What if I make the argument that in consecutive drafts they arguably took the best defensive and offensive prospect coming out? They did it last year with the best wide receiver and the best defensive end coming out. Would you be opposed to the best defensive tackle prospect and arguably the second best, depends where you rate him in front or behind Will Anderson?
See,
I'm asking.
That's why I like you, because the way you just phrased that, Brian Branch. I'm sorry, give me Bijan Robinson. You make a great point. Because
I'm only doing what you tell me, right?
No, that's essentially what
you
want
to make the case for Bijan Robinson. If there's any point you could ever make, it's that to me.
Yeah.
It's, hey, last year, you could argue the Lions walked away with the best offensive and the best defensive prospect coming out. And then you turn around in the next draft, and within relatively the same picking scenario, you're going to walk away with one of the best, top 2 for sure, defensive prospects, and also a top, really one, the number 1 offensive prospect. I don't count quarterbacks in that situation. He's the number 1 skill position offensive player. That's intriguing. I don't want it. I don't want Bijan. I don't even think he'll be there at 18, but even if he is, again, you paid money for David Montgomery. I know Swift is a liability, guys, but I can't. I can't stomach a first-round pick
on a running back.
I'd rather go with a Brian Branch. I'd rather go with a corner that I know I'm going to have lined up for when I lose Mosley and I lose Gardner Johnson.
Yeah, that's the part I struggle with, is really bending that philosophy. Because if we go off our traditional morning Woodward show positional rankings, based on our what we discuss, I can't say take a running back over a safety.
Name your 3 best defensive prospects.
3 best defensive prospects. Okay. I would go Willie Anderson 1, if I'm being real. 2, Jalen Carter. 3,
give me 5. Top 5.
Tyree Wilson.
Okay, give me 4 and 5.
Okay, now we're going 4 and 5. Okay.
Devon Witherspoon?
I might put Gonzalez ahead of him.
No, okay. I want to know.
I'll go Gonzalez 4. I'll go Gonzalez 4, Witherspoon 5. How about that?
Okay, cool. So for my 5, I would go Will Anderson 1, Jalen Carter 2, Kalijah Cansey 3, Tyree Wilson at 5, Devon Witherspoon at 4. That's how I feel. Obviously, I can't disrespect Jalen Carter to not have him at 2. I just can't. Even with all the problems and the question marks I do have about him, there's no denying what he is on tape, what he is on the field. I just can't.
Right.
I'd be lying to all of you. Top 5 offensive prospects. So this is where things get tricky. Because if you take out the quarterbacks, it's Bijan and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how I feel about the offensive players coming out.
Yep.
There's no wide receiver outside of Jackson Smith and Jimba that I would consider in the top 15. There's no wide receiver I would consider in the top 25 outside of Jackson Smith and Jimba and Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers.
Really, only 2 wide receivers, in my opinion, should go in the first round. It'll likely be 3 just because of how important the position is. But after Bijan, there's a gap, man.
Yeah.
There's a gap.
Besides the quarterbacks and offensive linemen, you're probably right. Bijan and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And that's why I've been so enamored by Bijan Robinson. And it's hard for me when we talk about these things because I'm open to it at 18. I get the philosophy on why you wouldn't be. And typically most years I wouldn't be. But there's exceptions to the rule. And
okay.
I do believe Bijan
check out this exception. David Mitchell asks, if you draft Jalen Carter at 6 and the cornerbacks are gone at 18, would you take Cansey at 18? And that's a tough one for me, David. Because as much as I would consider and as much as Brad Holmes loves to double down on the same position relatively early in the draft, I don't see Brad Holmes going 2 defensive tackles in the first round, especially with picks 6 and 18 in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
To me, you have to go another way. And whether that's a trade, whether that's Brian Branch, and if it's a tough question for me to answer because you guys know how much I love Kalijah Cansey. But if you took Carter, I can't double down in the first round in the same position. That's like last year, the Lions going Aiden Hutchinson and then George Karlaftis at 12.
Right.
And it's like, why? Why?
Yeah, and that I would agree. I don't see it. If Brad's going to double up on interior defensive linemen, to me it would be like maybe at 6 and then maybe in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. You know, I don't think it'd be both in the first round, but I'm a little higher on Ali McNeil. I like Ali McNeil a lot, and I wouldn't double up. But that's just me. We'll see what Brad does.
Bart, we just acknowledge? Oh, go ahead.
Look at this. Bart from Sterling Heights. Give Ben Johnson a new toy and Bijan Robinson, then use Swift as trade bait to get back in the early 2nd or 1st.
Guys, I love you. I love each and every single one of you so much, like my kids that I don't have yet. I love each and every single one of you. If you were an NFL GM and I called you and I'm Brad Holmes and I say, hey, give me a 4th-round pick for DeAndre Swift, you would hang up the phone right away. DeAndre Swift isn't worth a 6th-round pick.
Really?
No.
You don't think any team would give you a 6th round pick?
Because I'd rather just draft one in the 4th, 5th, 6th round and have 3-4 years worth of a rookie contract.
I mean, that's fair. If you're going off,
instead of a guy who's going to expire
not
and
being
he's always
available
hurt.
and he's on the last year of his deal. Yeah,
I'm not a fan.
There's that, but
not
for talent, he's
an exceptional
when healthy.
talent. No one's going to. no one ever denies DeAndre Swift's talent. We all know if this was Madden and you turned injuries off and he could play 17 games, he would be a problem in the NFL. The problem is this isn't Madden, guys. This is the NFL. This is real life, and he's never available. Sorry.
And there's also, just to play devil's advocate, not that I'm saying this will happen, but there's always a chance. I mean, you over the last couple of years, you watch running backs in their contract years absolutely go off. And I know the exceptions are not like DeAndre Swift, Saquon, Josh Jacobs. Swift has an opportunity this year to prove everybody wrong, but until proven otherwise, his value ain't high right now. So I don't see a trade being an option. I just don't.
Adam, I hope you're sterile for not wanting the Lions to draft the future franchise quarterback, says Kirk. Well, buddy, look. How much time do we have? We got 5 minutes, okay? Look. Give me a comp, Jeff, to work off of. Any comp for Will Levis.
For Will Levis.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, I've heard.
Okay, give me a comp for Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson. I don't. I don't think there's really.
Okay, let's start with Will Levis.
Josh for Anthony Richardson.
Josh Allen is the comp.
I think
Josh
you can
Allen
say Josh
took
Allen
2
for both
years
of them, probably.
to develop, and even now, Josh Allen is. Look, he's elite, but I got a lot of problems with Josh Allen's decision making.
Yeah.
His turnover prone ability. It's ridiculous, actually. So let's say it's Will Levis. Well, Will Levis, for the most part, had the same amount of snaps in college as Josh Allen did at Wyoming.
Right.
But the problem is Josh Allen at Wyoming was performing and had the numbers to back it up while Will Levis was throwing sub 58% completion percentage. Yes, his team was worse. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, all the excuses you would like. But my biggest problem with drafting players like Will Levis is he makes awful decisions. And I have thousands of snaps that justify that statement. He makes awful, erratic, inconsistent decisions. And when I have a quarterback, that's unacceptable. And I can't teach that. That's the biggest thing about quarterbacks. Everybody thinks it's about the arm talent, it's the accuracy. No, it's not. The number one factor for me is the quarterback's ability to problem solve, make decisions, and make decisions under duress. That's what separates Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and all these guys, and Joe Burrow from your Jared Goffs, your mid-tier quarterbacks, your Dak Prescotts. Like, there's levels to this game. I don't trust Will Levis in that department. Let's go to Anthony Richardson.
And by the way, I've seen some comparisons. Cam Newton is something I've
great.
seen.
Cam Newton's a great comp. I'm glad you said that because Cam Newton took Auburn from nothing to a national championship in his one season at Auburn. He threw for over 4,000 yards. He ran for a ridiculous amount of yards, double-digit touchdowns in the running game. And Cam Newton came out and was ridiculous, the consensus number 1 overall pick. Not a guy who threw 55% completion percentage in college. Cam Newton, if I remember correctly, somebody please stat correct me, I believe his last year at Auburn, his Heisman year, he threw roughly 70% completion percentage. Somebody tell me I was wrong.
At Auburn, he threw 66%.
There you go.
Yes. 66%.
Right around 70%.
30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
How many yards?
Almost 3,000. 2,900.
4,000 total yards combined with his rushing, correct?
Yep, he had 1,400 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns.
4,000 all-purpose, 40-plus touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That was Cam Newton. Now compare that to Anthony Richardson and tell me that's the same player. No, it's not. You're basing it off of what he could be, not what he did in college, though. They're not the same quarterback in college. Right. They're not even remotely close. And the only 2 quarterbacks that you could pull up in recent history that have had success out of the SEC that comp to Will Levis, it's Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning.
But even those guys had pretty good college careers, like statistically.
I don't see it. I just don't see it, man. So that's why I'm out on the quarterback. Brad Holmes, I not only trust him enough, but I think he's smart enough to finagle his way into next year or the year after's draft, if needed, to draft a quarterback. The guy moved from 32 to 12 by swapping picks and giving up, what, a third-round pick?
Right.
He gave up nothing. Nothing. To move up 20 spots in the first round of the NFL draft when a quarterback hadn't even been taken yet, by the way. Granted, it wasn't the strongest quarterback class, but you get where I'm going with this. I got the GM. I'm not worried about the quarterback situation. Jared Goff's my guy right now. He goes out, throws 18 interceptions, awful season. The team doesn't make the playoffs.
Right.
You got to reconsider.
New information. You're
you
allowed
got
to change your
reconsider
opinion.
things.
Yeah.
But I'm coming off of 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 18-1 down the stretch, touchdown interception ratio.
It's pretty good.
8-2 down the stretch. When you gave him a top 15 defense, yeah, I like the position the team is in. I'm not forcing or overextending my hand at quarterback.
Yep.
We'll take a break. We're live here at Dispo Dispensary out in Romeo.